ActionSA in KwaZulu-Natal is calling for the termination of a contract for a school nutrition program that's caused much uproar in the last few days after pupils from around 5,000 schools in the province were left without meals since the end of the Easter holidays because of a lack of deliveries. ActionSA's KZN leader is Ragele Mwango, who's joining us tonight on News at Prime. A very good evening to you, sir. Grateful for your time. So you, like the other parties in KwaZulu-Natal, want these contracts or this contract terminated, but you've gone further, and what you're calling for now in your latest letter to the Premier is that you want a forensic investigation to be conducted. Is that right?
Yes, correct, Mbekile. I think one must firstly admit that we are facing a serious crisis in KwaZulu-Natal. It's not just a hiccup. We saw the statement by the ANC secretary in the province where he downplayed this issue and called it just a hiccup. It's not a hiccup, it's a crisis, it's a mess actually. You know, if you look at the Newzroom program and the reasoning behind it, it's actually looking after poor kids who come from home where they can't get nutrition. And this is the only time where they get a meal when they get to school. So to subject them to the position where they can't really even get a meal on a day, if it is a meal, it's rotten, because we've seen what this supply is doing. It's actually supplying food that is rotten or there is no food at all. As I'm talking to you, Tembekile, at the moment, some suppliers are fighting for food at some central point. Now, that is why we are saying there is no reason why the department can keep this company. There is no reason at all, because they have defaulted. There's a clause in the agreement signed by the department and the supplier, which stipulate exactly that what happened when it comes to a default. This company have defaulted. They failed to supply as per the agreement. So the reason why the department is busy dilly-dallying with this company, we are calling for immediate termination. And even if the department must use emergency section to appoint different companies. This province have about 12 districts from the education department. You can able to simply divide it in four parts, where you can appoint 4 companies to supply food at least in a month-to-month basis, to allow a department to investigate, because we believe there's something going on here. That is why we're calling for the Premier to initiate a forensic investigation. We understand the Premier has spoken about internal investigation. We don't believe it's enough. We believe we need to appoint an independent company who will be able to get to the bottom of this problem.
And from what I've seen, the investigation as ordered by the KZN Premier, Nomusa Dube, would basically also take the form of a fact-finding mission, right, to establish the extent of the issues with food deliveries. Are there instances, for example, where food is delivered but not in adequate quantities or not delivered at all, etc.? Do you think that investigation would be helpful to a forensic investigation, perhaps as the second leg of what would happen?
Look, I'm hoping leaders in our government can really be in touch with reality and be on the ground. Tembekile, I'm on the ground myself. I've been to different schools. There is no need even to do investigation. If you're a leader, you go and see for yourself. You will definitely not need to investigate, because I've been to schools where there is no food at all. I've been to schools where the food is rotten. I've been to schools where the food have arrived, it's not enough. I've been to school where children, learners will arrive next to the kitchen and being told there is no food. I saw them myself literally crying. So if you're a leader, you can see that for yourself. You will definitely be touched. You will know there's a problem. That is why, Tembekile, I was touched to a point where I committed to one of the schools in Newzroom to supply them with food up until the department got their ducks in a row, because there's no way I can subject as a leader and so after seeing those kids crying in front of me. So I felt I am obligated to really rescue them on a day-to-day basis up until the department really get this on the bottom of this problem. But I can tell you, Tembekile, there is nothing here to do in terms of fact-finding. The solution here is for government in KwaZulu-Natal to terminate the contract of this supplier and use emergency section and appoint companies so that you don't stop a supply of food. We must ensure that our learners in KwaZulu-Natal are getting constant supply of food. There is no need to deal with this company. That is why we are saying, Tembekile, we need a forensic investigation where you can able to get exactly why this company was chosen amongst other companies. And also the department must tell us if there was any appeal, because the information I have from sources, there was an appeal against this award, and there was an arrest. For some reason, it was not taken through the process. And those questions will only be answered when you do a forensic investigation. But also, there was change of scope after the award was made to subcontractors. Those subcontractors signed an agreement that they would go and purchase food from this supplier.
Right.
But all of a sudden, the department is saying this supplier is now supplying to schools, and these subcontractors only fetch food from him and supply to schools. That's not what they've signed for.
And
so
the supplier you're referring to, Zwagele, is this, what you're referring to, the sole supplier who got this massive contract is this Pacina Retail, right? And I wonder how much you think that has to do with the problem. The fact that the contract was given to one supplier to supply, ultimately, over 5,000 schools. Logistically, it is a massive task. Surely that in itself was problematic to award it to a single person and trust that they would be able to pull off the job without any hiccups.
You're quite correct, Tembegile. This is why one is questioning even the reasoning. For anyone to think it was possible, if you know KZN, driving from Durban to different borders of this province, you will definitely know that you will travel more than 600 kilometers in some parts of this province. Now, to expect one company on a day-to-day basis to supply food in different parts of this province is just really crazy. It's insane to even begin with and think that it was possible. So one is asking sort of questions to say, the leadership of this province, the MEC, the Premier, the ANC leadership, because they keep defending this company. You ask yourself why? And why this company can't simply terminate and appoint different. This is why our proposal, Tembegile, we are saying appoint different companies, because we can tell right now there is no way that one company can supply the entire province. And that is why for these challenges of one person who's now defaulting in terms of the contract, but is still protected, but at the same time at expense of 2.4 million learners in this province. Those 2.4 million learners are really coming from poor families. And some of us, Tembegile, as politicians, our kids are not going to the school. They're reality, including myself. So we must be honest to ourselves and say, whose child must be subjected to this kind of environment? Okay. Why our learners must be subjected to a position where they go to school without getting food at school?
Last question then to you, Zwagele. You, in your letter to the Premier and the Director General, have attached a 7-day deadline. What happens if they don't do as you are demanding within a 7-day period?
Look, first of all, I've written to the MEC with a series of questions asking exactly some of the details, and I've given the MEC 14 days to respond, and also writing to the Premier, expecting the Premier also will respond within 7 days. And at the moment, we are busy engaging with our legal team to look at possible avenues to follow after this, because end of the day, what we are doing, we are trying to protect the poor learner of this province. And even if it means we must take legal action, we'll have to do that. But we don't want to get there. We believe that leaders must have conscience, must come to reality. They must be honest to themselves and say they have responsibility to protect the poor learner of this province. And if they do, they will definitely terminate this contract, and they will definitely call and do a forensic investigation, because there is no reason why they can run away from a serious issue we are facing. It's a crisis, a mess, and we believe that the Premier must declare this as a crisis. And a disaster.
Leader of ActionSA in KwaZulu-Natal. Good to speak to you, sir. Thank you for your time.